Without much further ado, I give you...
What is this?
Well, after having been released a year ago, and after all the hate and negativity it garnered from critics and fans alike, I finally decided to try out Gotham Knights, simply because it was on a massive sale, and the fact that I'm a huge Batman fan. So with both of those things together, I kinda had to at that point. Gotham Knights is a third-person action role-playing game published by Warner Bros. Games and developed by Warner Bros. Games Montreal, the same team behind Batman Arkham Origins back in 2013. So it took them 9 years to finally release another game. Rumor has it they were working on a Damian Wayne Batman game that got canned, which is why I suspect it took them so long to release another title. And look, I know the common sentiment is to lower your expectations and not compare this to the Arkham series, but after those games raised the bar for superhero games so high, it's impossible not to, especially when the last entry in that series is 8 years old. 8 years already, man. I don't know where the time goes anymore.
No! No! I ain't old like you! I ain't old! I ain't old!
Anyway, it's incredibly evident that they weren't copying Rocksteady's homework this time. Why, you ask? Well, let's dive right in, shall we? So the premise is that after a long, intense fight between Batman and Ra's al Ghul in the depths of the Batcave, Batman determines the only way to stop Ra's and prevent him from going after the rest of the Bat family is to blow up the Batcave and everything it contains, killing both himself and Ra's in the process. With Batman's death, it's up to the four Knights to pick up where he left off, protecting Gotham City, and looking into the last case he was working on, investigating the mysterious, mythical group pulling Gotham's strings from the shadows known as the Court of Owls. So yeah, some pretty big boots to fill. Some classic villains make a return here with the likes of Harley Quinn, Penguin, Mr. Freeze, and Clayface, who at the very least have some interesting stories going on outside of the main quest line that end in unique boss fights.
Nightbutt, you came. Oh, but look at you. You're getting all skinny. You gotta eat.
Graphically speaking, it's fine, but nothing that's going to really wow you. The character models for the Knights are mostly good, although Red Hood just always looked goofy to me. Like an edgy jock who's late to meet with his buddies on their motorcycles, chugging Monster Energy and throwing rocks in a quarry or something.
Cool beans, man. I live by the quarry. We should hang out by the quarry and throw things down there.
I just find it ironic how Batman Arkham Knight, an 8-year-old game mind you, is more graphically detailed and impressive than a game that just came out within the last year. It just goes to show you how passion and care for a property go a long way in making a game world feel real and alive. And I think it's just a testament to Rocksteady's passion for the Batman character and making sure they did him justice. No pun intended.
Boo!
Which is something I can't say for WB Games Montreal. Keep in mind that this is the same development team behind Batman Arkham Origins, which WB received help from Rocksteady to make. So you'd think at the very least some of the skills and techniques learned from developing that game would have translated over to this, but I'm sorry to say that's just not the case. And now we get into the real meat and potatoes, the gameplay. So similarly to the Arkham games, there's 3 main components of gameplay. You have combat, stealth, and detective sections. The combat is similar to what you'd expect for a melee action game. You have your standard melee combo attacks, ranged attacks, a dodge, and special moves that can be executed upon building up your momentum bar. It acts like the combo counter did in Arkham, where once you build it up enough, you can trigger one of your special attacks that deal bigger damage and can even stun your enemies. But yeah, in an incredibly bizarre move, WB chose not to include a counter mechanic as they had in the Arkham series, in a game centered on heroes who specialize in martial arts. So I don't know what they were thinking on that one.
I don't know.
Another strange omission is that there aren't really any gadgets for the player to make use of outside of those special attacks. And I don't know about you, but aren't gadgets one of the main things Batman and the Bat family are known for? It's just utterly baffling to me how those would be excluded. So for stealth, it's basically a dumbed-down version of what you had in Arkham, where you can take down most enemies if you avoid their line of sight, and upon detection you have a few seconds to take them out before alerting anyone else. It's not terrible, but it's not that great either. Usually I'd want to capitalize on this system as much as possible to avoid fighting so many enemies at once, especially when they act like such sponges for damage. The detective sections are passable, if unremarkable. You look at different items in the environment and link them to attempt to solve the case and determine what happened. There's an AR system to trace wires and cables in the walls, again similar to what Arkham had, just not done quite as well in my opinion. In terms of traversal, each knight uses a grappling gun as Batman did in the Arkham games, except in this game you can grapple downwards. To quickly traverse across rooftops, you grapple and hit the jump button to vault over buildings. Eventually, if you complete the necessary tasks to obtain knighthood for the particular character you're playing as, you can unlock a new traversal mechanic, and these are pretty hit and miss. Nightwing gets a Fortnite glider, Red Hood gets a mystical leap, Batgirl can glide with her cape, and Robin uses a Justice League satellite to teleport. These are all fine in theory, but in practice they don't help traversal feel any less slow, sluggish, and janky. Particularly Robin's, since his is literally just a cursor that moves slowly across the screen.
2 hours later.
I don't know who thought that would be a fun way to get around the city, because it's not.
It's true.
It just seems very strange to me that they would lock basic traversal mechanics behind knighthood like that. I think they could have locked upgrades for these moves, but not the moves themselves, just to make basic movement through the city less of a chore, especially in the opening hours. Each knight comes with their own skill tree, which for the most part just include minor buffs to moves like a 10% increase in the likelihood of getting a critical hit. But some have better benefits, like throwing 3 ranged weapons at once instead of just 1 at a time. A lot of the better upgrades are locked behind knighthood as well, which just further incentivizes players to try to unlock that skill tree as soon as possible. There are also a large variety of suits to choose from, and the actual suits that you acquire and craft can be further customized with swappable cowls, chest symbols, gauntlets, and boots, which is great. On top of that, there are even a number of different color variations you can apply to the suits to further customize them to your liking. Although this isn't the case for any suits you transmog to a preset skin, which is unfortunate since most of the transmog skins are the best ones in the game. You're able to acquire and craft suits, melee, and range weapons for each character, and some of these even come with mod slots which allow you to further customize each piece of equipment. This game overall just feels very average to me. For everything it did right, it did 2 things that were counterintuitive or poorly designed. The character movement is clunky, the combat is fairly basic, and it gets very monotonous and repetitive too quickly. The menu screen doesn't pause the game when you're trying to view the map or customize your suit, which is incredibly frustrating when you need to change equipment to actually do significant damage during a boss encounter. And the numerous loading screens when entering or exiting buildings, which again, Arkham Knight did away with 8 years ago, and that was running on a hard disk drive, not even a solid state drive. So I wanted to include a section in this review that I don't see or hear other reviewers talk about, and as a Christian, I thought it would be interesting to briefly discuss it. This is a section that I feel most reviewers don't touch on because they aren't Christian or just don't care, but I want to just because I believe it's worth talking about, and that's going to be the morality of the game. So think of something similar to Common Sense Media, where they outline if there's any positive messages or good things to take from the game, along with the bad things like use of profanity, inappropriate situations, etc. So Gotham Knights is rated T for teen, and as such has pretty much what you'd expect in terms of content, including violence and language. There are characters who use profanity, including taking the Lord's name in vain, and there's clearly a subtle hidden agenda to push woke liberal ideology on the player, with the inclusion of several gay pride flags, and even an email chain where Barbara Gordon is talking about partaking in a gay pride parade in rainbow versions of the Knights' costumes.
Room's starting to spin real fast because of gayness.
I don't know about you, but I'm so sick and tired of this being included in all of our entertainment these days. I'm sure there are those who will tell me just to ignore it or ask why it's a big deal, but that's always how things start until they've infested every corner of one of my favorite entertainment mediums. You can disagree with me, and that's fine, but this is my subjective opinion, and as such, I'll call it like I see it. So to wrap everything up, Gotham Knights, while having every advantage it could out of the gate, manages to squander the Batman license, and is ultimately a disappointing, unintuitive mess of a game, with several factors such as the suit customization, interesting puzzles, somewhat enjoyable combat, and an intriguing premise and story that keep it from being a truly bad game. They managed to get some things right while screwing up so many others, which is why it pains me to say this is just an average game at best. And for that reason, the final score for Gotham Knights is going to be a 5 out of 10. A middle-of-the-road game similar to Marvel's Avengers. I truly hope that WB Games Montreal gets their act together and learns from this experience, because there were some interesting things here. And we already know the highs that can be reached with this property, just looking at what Rocksteady did in the past.
I told you before. Letting me die would have been easier. Now, nothing can stop what's coming.
Hey everyone, hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, please feel free to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Let me know if there's any games you'd like to see me review in the future. These reviews will probably be few and far between just because I work a full-time job and don't have too much time to work on these, but I do enjoy it and I'm going to try to keep it up every once in a while. And I can tell you right now that my next review is going to be for Marvel's Spider-Man 2 on the PS5. Alright, that's going to be it, so God bless you, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'm wishing you God's best for now and throughout all eternity.